Well, they were some episodes, weren't they? I have very, very complicated feelings about this whole volume. There are a few bits I liked, but mostly I'm just feeling really confused, a bit angry, and just annoyed because we had our expectations set so high. That's not our fault because we got given all the evidence to tell us that we should have these expectations. Because this is one thing I will say before I go into this all. This isn't our fault. Like, every bit of writing and like how they did the scenes and things like that pointed us in the direction of Violet. And obviously, there is still the finale, and I'll be going into that. But the fact that we got literally like hardly anything and no one-on-one Mike and Will scenes in this volume, I just don't know. Like, especially with Noah saying that most of their scenes are together. What on earth happened? Like, what are we doing? So I'm not gonna lie, I have a load more doubt than I ever have before, but I am not completely hopeless. So I want to go through the things that really frustrated me. I'm going to go through sort of the like few like bits that we can speak on in this volume in respects to Byler. And because I thought this video before I watched volume 2 was going to be a really long video. But no, I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty short because I don't have too much to talk about. But also, I am going to go through the reasons why I do still have hope because there are so many loose ends. Like, it's actually ridiculous how many loose ends there are. And if they don't wrap at least some of these up, it is such bad writing. And obviously, they could very realistically be bad writers, but I still have the hope in my heart that there's still a chance because leaving some of these things open would absolutely ruin the show. And if I seem a bit incoherent in this video, that is because I woke up at 4 a.m. today because I couldn't sleep and I was so excited to watch this volume. And I'm really glad that didn't backfire on me. But don't get me wrong, I did like things about this volume, but definitely could have been improved on. In episode 5, we started off really strong with the Mike and Will hug. Because like that was entirely different to the airport hug. And like Mike like ran at him and like was freaking out just as we thought he would. And that was maybe one of the last times it felt like Mike was in character for this entire volume. Because you guys know me, I love Mike Wheeler. I will take any opportunity to read into his character and look at the emotional complexities of how he's acting and everything. This volume gave me nothing. like apart from when Will was coming out, there's a lot of interesting facial expressions there, which I will go into. But especially episode 6, I think it was like he was a bit of cardboard. Like, there was just nothing. And like this, I'm not blaming Finn at all because Finn's a great actor. I just think it was really bad writing. I'm really hoping they can pull it back for the finale because he has so much potential. He can still be a great written character. I think for him to make as massive an impact as we hoped, it would have had to be touched on in this volume, but I still have hope for the finale. But yeah, so he was just there, especially in episode 6. But also in episode 5, we did get Robin and Will speaking again, and where Will asks again Robin about sort of her relationship with Vicky and how they got there. And I'll touch on this later when I talk about the reasons why I still have hope, because this is one of my reasons. Because Will still has hope for his relationship here. And then from there, it kind of felt like we went off a little cliff. I was happy with the scene between Mike and Eleven when she was just about to go into the sensory deprivation tank, because at first Elle didn't really trust him that much with what she had to say, and Mike said friends don't lie. Friends. Like, I immediately clocked this when I was watching it. You'll see in my reaction video that I'm going to put up later this week that just seemed very like non-coupley. This entire season they've been acting very non-coupley. Like, I've seen Malevins annoyed by this. Like, this is I would never thought I would see the day where Malevins and Bylers agree on something, but apparently we can agree on how we didn't like Volume 2. So that's something, I guess. And then Mike speaking about their future always as a group, never just Mike and Elle, seems very like if they were supposed to be like this endgame couple that's supposed to be like the main ship of the show, why would they sort of be platonic all of the season? And why would their end like aim not be to get away from Hawkins together, just the two of them? That seems a bit strange if you ask me. And now let's talk about that coming out scene. I was really excited when Will pulled Joyce to one side. I knew immediately it was going to be the coming out scene because we deserve it. Like, Will deserves it. He deserves to be happy. But it just felt really rushed because of the way it was brought up. And we weren't shown what he was shown by Vecna. Because obviously, this entire coming out was motivated by him being taunted by Vecna and pressured into coming out, which, again, isn't a good start to coming out. Like, he should be able to do it on his own terms. But it sort of just felt like they wanted Will to have a coming out scene and they just had to push it in wherever they could. So they just sort of added like this bit that didn't have much, like, so it could have some plot relevance, I guess. And also they just decided to make him come out to every single person he has ever known at one time. Like, why was Murray there? Oh, well, I think he was there anyway. Why, like, I love you, Vicky, but why were you there? You've known Will maybe a day. If not, I don't even think a day. And it felt really impersonal and very out of character for Will because he's very like secretive. And I think it would have really worked if it just happened with Joyce and Mike. And I get that he had to tell the whole group to sort of protect himself from Vecna, but we didn't get much emotional payoff from that because we didn't see Vecna taunting him. It just happened off screen, and that just seems like such a strange thing to happen off screen because that's so pivotal to him going through this second self-acceptance arc, which I will touch on in a minute. And it just felt really weird because like it would have felt better if we saw what he saw, but no, we didn't, and that just felt really odd that they just had to shoehorn it in here. Like, Will has to come out, so we have to pretend that like Vecna has done this. So I know he accepted himself earlier in the season, but he didn't really accept himself. Like, nah. Like, there were things I liked about this scene. Like, him and Max was really sweet, with Max going to like saying like, you're gonna have to hug me, and imagine I'm hugging you really tight. Like, and I just love Sadie so much. But it just felt so off to me, so impersonal. And again, no one comes out to, well, some people do, but it just felt off for Will to come out to that many people at the same time. It just, yeah. And like I said, he had already accepted himself in episode 4. So they have had to give him 2 self-acceptance arcs because all of a sudden he didn't accept himself just because Vecna showed him pulling away from his friends and them being worried for him. Like, they're always worried about him, and just don't pull away from your friends. And like, you don't have to come out to them all at once. And I think it would have worked so much better if it was just the core party, or just Joyce, or Joyce and Jonathan, or Joyce and Mike, not all of these 12 people. Like, I am just so bored of the only storyline queer people having is coming out. Like, he has watched all of his friends fall in love, and suddenly he's not allowed to because Mike was his Tammy? Like, they're not even comparable at all. Mike and Will have been friends for so many years. Tammy and Robin were essentially acquaintances. Like, it just frustrates me so much. And I feel like the writers don't know their own characters at this point. And also, why are we mentioning Tammy in the first place? Because no one knows about Tammy apart from Robin and Steve. And the rest of them, like, don't know what that means. And her, like, him just mimicking her things that it was never about him, it was always about me. But Mike was literally in his videotape. Like, this doesn't make, they literally set everything up and they just decided to like take it away. Like, that is just such an odd writing choice. Like, I know this is Netflix, but I really did have more hope that something like this wouldn't happen. And I was like, are we expecting Will to have got over Mike in like a day? Because we know from his conversation with Robin and like about Vicky, he seemed to have hope there still, and then all of a sudden he's over him and like ready to move on, even though they literally had at the end of season 4 he ripped the band-aid off, he told Mike his feelings through Elle, and that could have been the time that he gets to move on and sort of accept himself and get over these feelings in the 18 months between seasons. But then we have not even one day and he can get over them. And it's not a crush at all. Like, he's been in love with him since like season 3. So I don't really know why we're trying to do this at all. And the fact that Mike only joins in on the hug after Lucas and Dustin and like only says something, even though they're canonically best friends, he should be one of the first people to be hugging him and telling him it's okay, but he doesn't. That just seems so out of character for Mike, especially like Mike, who's the leader and trying to bring people together at this point. And also, do you know how awful it would be to have not only 2 self-acceptance arcs and 2 getting over Mike arcs, but also for Mike and Eleven's relationship to be fixed solely with Will's feelings? Because I feel like so many people forget about this. Like, it's Will was the one that single-handedly built that home back up. So it would just be so unsatisfying to make Will move on from Mike, but then also make Mike and Elle happy together. So I just don't get why they would do that, and this is part of the reason I still have hope. I actually have quite a few reasons why I still have a bit of hope in there. I'm a lot more pessimistic than I was before just because of what we got in volume 2, but I really do think there might still be a chance of finale. I don't think they'll do it justice in the same way that they could have done it if they introduced it in volume 2, because obviously we had 3 episodes to play with there. We have a 2-hour episode to play with in the finale. So really we do still have like 2 episodes worth, but also we have the epilogue in that. But we do still have a chance. So let's start with the scene between Robin and Will in episode 5, where Will asks Robin how she got together with Vicky, and Robin says that before coming out, she never would have had the confidence to speak to her, but because she came out to Steve, she did. And at this point, Will is asking because he still has hope. He doesn't view Mike as his Tammy, and for him to get over Mike so quickly after that conversation and to lose hope so quickly, because we have got zero confirmation that Mike actually has rejected him. Will's just assumed that Mike has rejected him, which, like, I'm stuck between like this feeling like a stretch and also this feeling like a good piece of evidence. But the inclusion of this scene does feel like a really good piece of evidence towards this, because Robin sets out the exact steps that Will should complete, because Will has just come out to everyone, and logically this would mean that his next step is to get his Vicky. And yes, you could argue that's his epilogue boyfriend. If he has an epilogue boyfriend, that'd be the most disappointing thing ever. I'd rather him end up single, because that would be such a rush and just feels so disappointing, especially when it will feel like he's had to settle with someone that he's not genuinely happy with. But also, we have had so many parallels between Mike and Vicky, to the point where I don't think anyone else could be Will's Vicky apart from Mike. Adding to this, I think it's important to go back to volume 1, where Robin sets out the signals that she received from Vicky, and we have Will looking like down after he asks how obvious. He's obviously contemplating interactions between him and Mike here, and for that to just mean nothing, because it sets up things that we should be looking out for. So for that to mean nothing, it just makes it such a pointless scene, because we see him flirting with Mike. These signals aren't to show us that he likes Mike, because we know that. Like, that was obvious from season 4, so I don't get why they would be re-establishing that. So what is the point of the scene if we weren't supposed to look out for something? Same with Will flirting with Mike, even though last season he was determined to hide his feelings for as long as possible. He would not be doing this unless something had changed. And something had changed with maybe Mike and Al's relationship. Because again, Will is number one, like, Malevolent fan. He wants them to, well, he doesn't want them to be together, but he wants them both to be happy, so he will push them together. So he wouldn't do anything to get in the way of that. Mike would have had to show a sign for Will to show that behaviour. And I really hope that in finale we do kind of see this, because again, we need it to explain both Mike's behaviour and Will's behaviour. And it would just feel so like dismissive of everything that they've written in the entire show if they just didn't address those scenes, because those scenes are obviously setting something up, and it can't be an epilogue boyfriend, because that would just that would be the worst writing they could possibly do for their main very traumatized character who is in love with his best friend. Also, the fact that Mike is in Will's videotape. Robin was on her own, but Will was with Joyce, Jonathan, and Mike. He is an essential part to who Will is. And Tammy and Mike, like I said, they aren't comparable at all. Robin and Tammy, acquaintances. Mike and Will, absolute best friends. They've been through so much together. They've trauma bonded together, just like so many of the people in the party. It just, like, it's two entirely different relationships, and I don't see any world where we can reasonably expect for them to, like, even compare to each other. And also the absolute blandness of any Mike and Eleven scene, because they were like a wet sandwich this entire volume. Like, they sort of, their entire plot this season has just been them like hugging each other after they've been reunited and talking about it as a group. They've never spoken about themselves just as a couple. They've acted pretty platonically, I would argue. They haven't kissed. They sort of haven't really made plans, just the two of them, because like we saw Robin and Vicky make their plan to go to their date at Enzo's, and I'm assuming Lucas and Max would be going to the cinema together. And just, there is absolutely nothing for Michael and Elle. Like, I wouldn't be happy, but I would sort of settle if they'd built their relationship up and they were better than they were in season 4. But they didn't. They've done absolutely nothing to their relationship. They've had no arc whatsoever in this entire season. So I don't really see, like, how we're expected to think that they'll end up together. And if it's just because Elle's going to die, that's, again, so disappointing to me. They shouldn't. If they make Elle die in the end as a self-sacrifice, that'll be so disappointing, the most predictable ending, and I will hate it so much. Because each couple had their moment to shine in this season, I would say. Even Jonathan and Nancy, when they broke up, which I didn't read as a breakup, but sure, Duffers, I guess if you mention it in an interview, that means that they've broken up. But they haven't, and Mike said friends don't lie, even though, like, I guess they're friends then. Like, that was exciting to me when he said that. Then we can move on to Mike's facial expressions when Will is coming out, and they are very interesting, because when Will says that he has a crush on someone, the face he pulls is very similar to the face that he pulls just before he says I love you to 11. And they're very, like, micro facial expressions, and Finn is very good at doing those. And it feels like, because we had so much emphasis on Mike's reaction to his coming out, that just feels intentional, because they would have had to direct him in a certain way to him to give a certain reaction that they want for the plot. And Mike is a really smart guy. He's going to figure it out, because Will said he doesn't feel the same way instead of he didn't. So that shows that it's someone in their group. It's not someone back in Lenora. And by saying he has a crush, that shows that he does like someone. So Elle was right. And Elle said that he was painting something for someone he liked. And obviously, Mike has that painting. So for Mike to not add all these things up, especially because we focus so much on his reaction during Will's coming out, and when he was talking about his crush. It just feels like it would be such a waste for him to not connect those dots and for them to not talk about it, because Will could have easily not mentioned his crush at all during the coming out. It wasn't needed at all. But for him to bring it up, and if we're just going to end the series without them, like Mike acknowledging it just feels so strange. Like, no matter how he responds, even if he rejects Will, it just feels weird for him to not know, even though it's been exactly mentioned to him. It just feels like something that should at least be acknowledged that he does know. Like, he's the fifth one to go to Will after he's come out. Like, that just feels so out of character for him. And with all of this, they could have finished this plot line at the end of season 4. They could be very cruel and just be carrying it out for queer baiting, and so they don't lose viewers, which would be really disappointing in my opinion, but I can't put it past them. But it just feels like at the end of season 4, Will accepts that Mike doesn't feel that way and tries to get over it. But then it's been reintroduced in season 5, and we had scenes set out by Robin specifically, who has a girlfriend, that to look out for signs for Mike liking him. And that look at the end of episode 4, it just, that is an obvious sign to me. And it feels so pointless for those scenes to not point anything out. Like, that's not good writing at all. Like, I've written a TV show for my dissertation, and that would be marked down, because that is stupid writing. It doesn't amount to anything, and they have limited screen time, so why would they waste parts of the episode on things that won't amount to anything? And on to things that aren't specifically in the show. Sean Levy said that Noah and Finn, grouping them together, carry a lot of emotional weight in the final episodes. Mike has not done this at all. I can see how Noah has done this. Well, Will has done this. But Mike's character, like I said, just has not been in touch with his emotions at all. So that has to happen in the finale. We are waiting for that to happen. And I'm desperate to show that his personality change had a reason, because both Max and Dustin's personality change have been explained. Yet, are we just supposed to dismiss Mike's personality change in seasons 3 and 4 and expect him to go back to this leader role, that there's not really too much explanation of why he's back to it all of a sudden, apart from Will's words with the painting? So this has to be addressed, because otherwise they have just completely wrecked Mike's character so much, and he deserves way better because he has so much potential, and it's so frustrating to see it like this, especially because Finn's a really good actor, so he can play out. I need to see a Mike Wheeler emotional breakdown, and we haven't seen that. We've also been told this season that it's not necessarily the music that brings you back, but more a person, and this feels like it's setting up for something. So it would be really nice if this was a moment between Mike and Will. And lastly, it's not much to do with season 5, but everything that happened in season 4, the airport hug, the looks, like, what other explanation is there? That was completely setting it up, and I don't know where all of that has gone. It's so disappointing. And the cast seems to be avoiding speaking about it, even though they, like, if it wasn't happening, just say it wasn't happening. Like, this just feels cruel if it's not happening. Equally, if they kill Elle and Mike and Will get together just in the epilogue really quickly, it will be almost as bad as if they're not together at all. Because that would just feel so rushed. It will make Will feel like a second choice. It will just be so disappointing. And even though we'll get the end result that we want, it would just feel really unsatisfying, because there hasn't been the emotional payoff that there should be towards it. And if it's slightly in the epilogue, that would be pure crumbs. Like, we deserve better than this. There's been so much towards it, and for it to pay off like this is so disappointing. So it's going to be a really long 6 days waiting to see what happens. I'm going to have to try and distract myself and not really think about it, or Strange Things, or Byler, really, because I'm going to enjoy the finale because I'm a fan of the show. But I just really hope that they do my favourite characters justice, and they at least do a good job in the finale of it, the very least explaining Mike's character change, because that needs explaining completely. So I won't be checking the comments of this video because for my own mental health, I know that a certain group of people will come here and be like, I told you so, so I'm not going to do that. But I imagine a lot of you are feeling the same way as me, which is nice to know because I've gone on Tumblr. If you want to speak to me about it, message me on Tumblr or just comment on one of my posts because I've posted a lot about it already because of my complex feelings about the whole thing. And I will be posting my reaction to the season later this week. So I will see you then. Goodbye!